Hi, within this lecture, we're going to see how we can do the ARP poisoning thing that we have discussed in the previous lecture. And we're going to run the Windows machine and the Kali Linux machine at the same time in this lecture because we're going to use Windows machine as a victim machine from now on. So I'm running on my Windows machine and it's on the NAT network. Okay, so let me confirm this. If you open here and type cmd to search, it will bring you the command prompt. So this is basically the terminal for Windows. So if you run ipconfig rather than ifconfig that we have run in the Linux, it will display the IP address of the current device. So if you type ipconfig and hit enter, you will see the relevant information regarding to this Windows machine. As you can see, this Windows machine has the IP address of 10.02.4. Below we can see the 10.02.1 as the default gateway, which is the router address. So we are certain that 10.02.4 belongs to the Windows right now, and we're going to attack on this. The next thing that we want to learn is how to get the ARP table of the current Windows. In order to do that, you just type ARP-A. So it shows you the IP address and the MAC address of the interactive computers, interactive devices of the Windows. So this is basically the output of NetDiscover, but it only shows the output of the interactive devices. So I can see the 10.02.1 has this MAC address and 10.02.15 has this MAC address as well. So this is the two values. This is the real MAC address of my router, and I have the MAC address of the Kali machine. But later on, we will change this table. When we do ARP poisoning, the Kali Linux will have the MAC address of the router because this Windows machine will think Kali Linux as a router. And also router will think Kali Linux as a Windows machine. And in order to achieve this, I'm going to run ifconfig here to confirm that I'm on the same network. I'm connected with ET80. I have the 10.02.15 IP address. So you have to be on the same network in order to conduct this attack. So how do we do it? We use ARP spoof command. After ARP spoof, you specify the interface by -i, and my interface at this moment is ET80. And after that, I have to specify the IP addresses, okay? And we're going to do this for the victim machine and then the default gateway machine. So my victim machine in this example is 10.02.4. So if you have different IP, you have to write this in here. And after that, you have to specify the router address. So the router address in my case is 10.02.1. So how do we know this information? We know this information from NetDiscover, right? Because when we run NetDiscover, we got this. And I'm opening a new terminal here because I will run the same command vice versa. So what do I mean? So let me paste the command in here, and I believe something is wrong. We're going to make it right. Don't worry, and I will explain why I'm doing this twice. So in here we have to add some parameter called t-t, which stands for target. Okay, our target is 10.02.4, and we are telling 10.02.4, which is Windows machine, that we are the router. And we're going to do that with the router as well. We're going to tell the router that we are the Windows machine in the next terminal. So if I say 10.02.4, 10.02.1 in here, then I must say 10.02.1 and 10.02.4 in here. So just change the position of these IP addresses, okay, and hit enter. And you don't have to write your own IP address. You will need to give the router address and the victim address in different terminals. Since our both terminals are running, then we have to check if our attack is successful or not from the Windows machine. So I'm going to run this ARPA once more, and if you pay attention to the 10.02.1 and 10.02.15 result in here, they had different MAC addresses, since this is true. But if you look 10.02.1 in here, you will see that this has been changed. So the MAC address of 10.02.15 is now the MAC address of 10.02.1, because Windows thinks 10.02.15, Windows thinks Kali Linux as a router right now. So our ARP spoofing has worked. So Windows thinks that Kali Linux is router, and this is actually happening in the router as well. Router thinks the Kali Linux as a victim machine right now. So Kali Linux can see the packets at this moment. So Kali Linux is the man in the middle. So this is how ARP spoofing actually works. But in order to make this work in real life, we have to run one more command on a third terminal. And we have to run this command every time we run Kali Linux, if we try to do a man-in-the-middle attack, of course. So let me show you what I mean. So if you open a third terminal in here, I will run a command enabling IP forwarding. It means that the Kali Linux will be able to forward these packets coming from Windows to the router and packets coming from router to the Windows. If you don't run this command, Windows will lose its internet connection. So you have to say echo 1 and then greater than proc sys net IPv4 and IP forward. Okay, it has to be exactly like this. So just take a note of this: echo 1 proc sys net IPv4 IP forward. It means that put a 1 into this IP forward file. If there is a 1 in this file, IP forwarding is enabled. If there is not a 1 but a 0, IP forwarding is disabled. So we are writing 1 inside of that file. And remember, you have to do this every time you open your Kali Linux. So let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to see a framework in order to do all of this stuff for us.